With that, the team at Arthritis Consumer Experts, or ACE for short, welcomes everyone to a very special webinar titled The Papal Apology, Dr. Terri-Lyn Fox's Personal Reflection. My name is Ellen, and please allow me to serve as your moderator for today. This webinar will consist of a 30-minute presentation followed by a 30-minute Q&A period. Before we begin, a few kind reminders. First, all participants are muted and cameras are off. Feel free to move around and stretch as you see fit. Secondly, we ask you to use the question box for questions, which will be answered after the presentation, and the chat box to post comments, post your land acknowledgement during the webinar. Next, the content in this session will include topics that some may find triggering. Please give yourself space to step away from your screen and reconnect when you're ready. And lastly, if you experience any technical issues, please use the link provided on screen. Arthritis Consumer Experts and its team members are incredibly grateful and would like to honor the land on which we learn and we advocate. This is the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples, namely the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh nations. Gamotan is the inspiration and visual moral center of the work we are doing at ACE. Gamotan means cleansing as healing. This artwork that's located in the top left-hand corner was commissioned from an Indigenous artist, Courtney Alexandra Fox, from the blood tribe of the Blackfoot Confederacy. Courtney is a woman, a mother, a daughter, a sister, a partner, and a friend. She creatively expresses emotions, thoughts, and connections through various mediums of art. I invite everyone to take a minute to read the rich description of all that the art represents, which will be sent to you in a follow-up correspondence. Now, please join me in welcoming the president of Arthritis Consumer Experts, Cheryl Cohen.
Hi, everyone. I echo our wonderful moderators' comments. Thank you for being here. Grateful to the Coast Salish peoples. It is always an honor to introduce our distinguished speaker, Dr. Terri-Lyn Fox. Dr. Fox is from the Blood tribe within the Blackfoot Confederacy, and she practices her Siksikaitsitapi ways. And she has taught us about those ways in a very generous, expert way. We're so thankful. Dr. Fox has a bachelor's degree in psychology, a master's degree in sociology, and a doctoral degree in education. And her dissertation was on the topic of Indian residential schools and the perspectives of Blackfoot Confederacy people. We are so grateful to Dr. Fox for sharing with us over the last year and a half the understandings, the learnings from this research, and also to the survivors who contributed to her research. We're so grateful to them. Dr. Fox is also directly and indirectly affected by Indian residential schools as a day school survivor herself. She is the super grandmother, the super mother, the super scholar, and just an incredible human being. We're so grateful to her for being with us today and talking to us about the Papal Apology through her lens, through an Indigenous lens, through an Indigenous scholar's lens. So welcome, Dr. Fox. It is your stage now.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, from the traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy. So what I present to you today is personal thoughts, reflections of the Papal Apology. So in Blackfoot, and I wish I could pronounce it so gracefully as our fluent Blackfoot speakers do, Gakadoyin, his apology. And my Blackfoot name is Abik So Abik Wikmadaki's Ikskat Daksin. my reflections on the Papal apology that took place July 25th and 26th, 2022. Firstly, yes, I am directly and indirectly affected by the Indian residential schools. Not only started, with experiencing that as a daughter of two survivors, but years before that, and the culmination of, assimilation policies and quote unquote contact, as well as the doctrine of discovery. So my PhD, thesis statement, the research, it's also part of my own healing journey. Had I known that when I first applied to do a PhD, the gutsy risk-taking, even courageous, if you will, ambition, and I just love learning. So had I known then what the outcome would be, I might not have, applied. But in that whole process, change had occurred. Deep-rooted feelings, ancestral memory, the DNA of our language, of our connection to the land, and to everything around us. It just, started coming to surface. In my PhD, I talk about the IRS compensation, the apology, and survivor stories. Specifically here, the apology. So in 2012 is when I conducted my field work, and at that time, many of the survivors were already sharing what that apology might look like, if in fact it does come about from the Pope, from the Catholic Church, from other churches. And so started, formulating, thinking in my own mind, what does that look like? And you will see pictures that I strategically insert with quotes or what I'm going to talk about. So we come from this traditional place of living on the land. Our housing, our dwelling was the teepee, and a teepee actually can't ever be torn down, blown away. It's so strong. How you erect a teepee is there's only one way you can do it, and so you need to be taught that. How you take it down, you need to be taught that. So those teachings years before residential school, but they still apply to today, because we still have our Akogasen, which was the first photo you saw on the first screen. Now you see my photo of Pope Francis entering and coming to sit down at the Musqueam stage arbor, where there were thousands of people there. It was a different experience. Why did I put my name down to be part of a mental health support team, cultural support team for the visit? Well, I was curious, my curiosity got the best of me, and I was pretty cool when I first inserted my name. And I think it hasn't fully sunk in, but being there at that place and time, that's historical. I'm part of that history, and I get to share my experience. I get to analyze a few things, if you will, and I get to pass my knowledge, my experience on to my children, my grandchildren, and those who will sit and listen and talk with me. So one of the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action was an actual apology. They wanted, the churches to apologize as part of reconciliation. So in 2019, when the TRC was released, we call upon the Pope to issue an apology to survivors, families, and communities for the Roman Catholic Church's role in the spiritual, cultural, emotional, physical, and sexual abuse of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis children in Catholic-run residential schools. We call for that apology to be similar to the 2010 apology issued to Irish victims of abuse, and to occur within 1 year of issuing of this report, and to be delivered by the Pope in Canada. So when you send that intention out, right, that's an intention. You send it out to the universe. It's going to happen, right? You can't not know it now. It's there. What are we going to do with it? What are we going to do about it? Who's going to act upon it? Who's going to make sure it happens? So many First Nations groups across Canada advocated, lobbied to ensure that this had occurred, and it has happened. And this is a culmination of years and years of desire, and you're at the very core. This is a step. It's a step in the path forward to truly realize truth and reconciliation. Pope Francis has apologized for the Catholic Church's role in the catastrophic legacy of residential schools during a visit to Maskwacis. So his apology is available, and there's some resources that will be shared when they send out the slide deck and further resources. But he was given a pair of moccasins as a sign of suffering and endured by the children, especially those who did not make it home. Well, even those that did, we feel the effects today, and we see it. So these actions are intentional, they're symbolic, and I hope it's truly a path forward, that not only the churches, but the systems we operate in, that we really want to walk together. Like it could be humanity's great legacy for us to walk together, and to not run away from that pain and discomfort of feeling. That's done, that's in the past. But to feel it and to say, what do I do with this? How do I make sense of this? And how can I help you as you help me, as we move forward together? Leading up to the Papal visit, we had about a month to apply, and then every week there was updates, there was webinars of what to expect. The day before, July 25th, we had a full day of pre-debriefing and preparation for the Papal visit, and much of it was self-care, knowing your own mental health, emotional health, where to go for support, because of course, as mental health workers, cultural support workers, elders, we're going to be affected somehow, in different ways, and in different, the spectrum, the degree is going to be felt differently. We got up early, that Monday morning, and it was like 3 a.m. I had to get up. We had to be on the bus at 4 a.m. We were driving out to Maskwacis. So this is a photo of one of the ladies that took care of me. She's non-Indigenous, but she was an amazing soul. And when we, introduced ourselves with our groups, I sat on the bus with her, and there were school buses. They weren't chartered big luxurious buses, they were school buses, kind of ironic, but it's amazing how souls, attract like souls. And so she was my support while I was there. And I think I was downplaying my intention of why I put my name down. But in reality, it was for my mom and dad. It was for my grandparents. It was for me and my children and my grandchildren. It was for me just to experience. And I let myself feel the pain and feel the anger of those who attended, and but to pray to my mom and my grandma, just be with me, so I don't totally lose it, and that I absorb what I can in a good way, and I don't walk away angry, but I want to be able to digest it in a good way. And all the chairs that were already set up, the stage, the big monitors, it was all prepared, and it was kind of this surreal feeling of, really, this is really happening. It's not a movie. It's, not scripted. This is in real time. This is raw. And I'm so humbled. I'm honored. And I'm so glad I chose to be a part of it. I really am. In his apology, and he's not a fluent English speaking Pope, he said, "I thank you for making me appreciate this, for telling me about the heavy burdens that you still bear, for sharing with me these bitter memories. Today I am here in this land that, along with its ancient memories, preserves the scars of still open wounds. I'm here because the first step of his penitential pilgrimage among us is that of again asking forgiveness, of telling you once more that I am deeply sorry for the ways in which, regrettably, many Christians supported the colonizing mentality of the powers that oppressed the Indigenous peoples. I am sorry. I ask forgiveness." So while there are many that'll say, it doesn't matter, it's too late, I personally felt that. And if my mom was here, I'm sure she would have, told my dad, we're going up there. This is part of our journey. We need to hear it, and we'll go from there. My mom and dad had made amends with residential school late in life, probably during their 50s. When my mom retired, my dad stopped drinking, and they got to know one another. They got to experience each other for the next 25 years that they had together. And I think through that, they forgave themselves, they forgave each other, and they made peace. And although it was, challenging to grow up, knowing my mom and dad were taken away from their parents and their grandparents and their language and our traditional ways, they're amazing grandparents and great grandparents. And I saw the gentleness and the kindness and just the love that they had once they forgave, especially themselves. So it meant a lot to me to hear that word. I ask for forgiveness and I am sorry. So as you can see, these are my photos, you know, mingling and making sure that, you know, members were supported. We were able to give snacks and, you know, Kleenex and water, and just support, being visible, the blue hats, the blue vest, just letting people know we were there for support. I saw some of my family from one of the reserves, and then from my reserve, and it was really good to see them. And I think they just felt secure that, you know, mental health support was there, cultural support was there. So, you know, again, it was not just for me, it was for my parents, it was for community, it was for other members, other First Nations people, that I could be there to support them while we hear, while we listen and see the apology unfold. And they're part of this history as well. It'll be written in, you know, history books and other books to create awareness and healing. If you can see in the photo to your right, Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister Trudeau was there, former Assembly of First Nations Chief Phil Fontaine is sitting right next to him. And Phil Fontaine actually started the movement of really investigating into the sexual abuse of Indian residential schools, as he's a sexual abuse survivor, Indian residential school survivor. And then just down, as you know, Jason Kenney, and then there were some elders sitting with him. One of our board members is just a couple seats down from the Prime Minister. So it was good for me. It was good for me to be there. This is a photo of, you know, getting to Maskwacis at like, you know, 6 a.m., being prepared, being ready, you know, walking through. I think there was up to 400 mental health and cultural support workers for the 2 days. And, you know, pretty, the energy that we, when we came together, was felt, and the support and the healing, you know, albeit there was a couple of individuals that were there just to be there, and I noticed that, but that wasn't my journey, that was their journey. You know, so I have to let that go. I can't let my ego get in the way and say, what on earth are you doing here, right? I just let it go and pray about it and say, you know, it's not a perfect world, you know, but people try. There's a photo I inserted here of these wooden chairs and these wooden desks, and in May we had a Indian day school, kind of this, every week we're in a different community on a reserve. We're in Lethbridge, we're in Calgary. We actually, our Indian residential school, day school support workers went to one of the Drumheller prison to support any members there that wanted to fill out their day school. So my work, we just have, you know, broken down the invisible barriers of on reserve, off reserve. We're gonna go where we're gonna go, and the invisible boundary of our reserve is no longer in our mind. We're expanding that, we're decolonizing, and we go where we can, where we're needed. But that day I was there, and although I had already filled out my day school application last year, I received my compensation, took a year to review. You know, as a, you don't just apply for the first level, because there's so many layers to your experience, and so it took a year. And when I was there supporting with our team, and we had about 50 people come that day, I was looking at our community. I was looking at the hall that we rented for that day, and these emotions came up. And we still had these wooden desks, we still had these wooden chairs, and in my mind, I'm saying, F you colonizer, F you residential school, we're here, and we're healing, and we're helping our people. We're overcoming, Gamodan, to overcome, to survive, to recover, to forgive. That's where we're at. It's very raw and real. And I'm part of this bigger than me, but I'm a part of it. So that's a part of me too. And I really value that. I honor that, and who I am, the work I do, but my own personal clout and courage and tenacity to push forward, and to be that. Who am I not to be, really? These are other photos from Masquachis. It was a beautiful morning. Light rain, came after the Pope's apology. The rain kind of dissipated, but as you can see, there was a huge crowd within the arbor, but also the security. So there was, the security on top of the buildings, strategically placed, in different areas. There was helicopters going above us, and again, it just felt surreal. Like, is this really happening? Really, are there really snipers here? Right? It's real. And kind of downplayed it at the time, and going through putting the presentation together, I just had this feeling of, the reality that I was there, that I was a part of that, and to pray about it, and to be thankful that I could experience, something such as this. Not only my personal experience, but also writing about it. How on earth did I write about Indian residential schools? How did I write and formulate and analyze what the survivors had shared, right? And I hope, within what I did, and within who I am as a 60 Sitapi woman, moving forward, it's about dismantling, it's about changing, it's about overcoming, and learning new ways, and blessing what we know as truth before all of the documents and the writings and the disclosing of abuses, right? We do it for our children, right? We do it to honor our ancestors. I'm in the here and now, so what's my responsibility? who am I accountable to? I'm accountable to all of those people because I know what I know. It's my responsibility to share what I know with all around me. And this is a photo of my daughter a couple of years ago at our Akogats at our annual circle camp. She just got her face painted, and although we're not supposed to take photos, these are, you know, these are amazing photos. She wasn't in the inner circle, she was outside of the inner circle, and so many elders say that's okay, that's okay. So I followed our protocol, and we still do what our ancestors did, you know, 1,000 years ago. And I'm so honored and proud that we believe in that, and we honor them. On that Tuesday, I was getting sick, by the way. I've been kind of sick throughout the month of July. And because I have RA, I'm very mindful of when I get sick. And I'm also stubborn, you know. I love working. I work all the time. I love to, but you know, I just get excited, you know, what else can I do? But I got really sick that Tuesday when we were at Lake St. Anne. There was a lot of a different sage. There was freshly cut grass not from my territory, but from up north. So it was very different for me. So it just kind of triggered, you know, allergies, my sinuses. I get really bad sinus infections, just, you know, having RA, the meds I'm on, and I'm just vulnerable, susceptible. So I was in the mobile, you know, emergency unit for most of that day. And spiritually, I was probably, you know, I needed some time away. And mentally and emotionally, I was probably ready just to take a break, just to take a time out. They were amazing. They treated me so good. And actually, in fact, it was really good for me just to take a time out. It was an emotional morning, was emotional day prior. And the Pope had gone to actually, you know, like St. Anne, right, to the lake, prayed, and then he, you know, they had mass that day as well. So just a different feel, personal, you know, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? Why is this happening? One of my mentors, who's he takes care of me spiritually and understanding, you know, historical trauma and intergenerational trauma. You know, he said, girl, you're tired. Your spirit was tired. You just had to have some time out. So don't feel bad. You didn't miss out on anything. But you recover, you take care, you take some time out for yourself. And actually, I was forced to. I was literally forced to. And I'm sharing this photo because, you know what I've gained throughout my journey growing up, you know, my parents and how they parented, and all I knew at the time when I started university was, this is my ticket out. I'm not living on social assistance. That's not enough. That's not good enough for me. I better put this brain to use and start this you know, academic journey. And throughout all of that, you know, I have 6 grandsons, and I bought them all Calgary Flames sweaters, you know, and our little Christmas gatherings that we still practice and honor. You know, we don't not cherish gatherings. Rather, we're decolonizing how we come together and why we come together on specific days in the regular calendar year. And we acknowledge that, you know, the word of Jesus, that's what I hold on to. And that's what I share with my children. The message of Jesus. Some are very powerful. And I reflect on that. I reflect on the elder teachings as well, and their words. So I want to maintain our ancient ways, our teachings, and I want to continue practicing our way of life. Siksigate Sitabi Gibat Sin, our way of life for my children, for my grandsons, so that it's easier for them as they grow, and that my voice, my advocacy, my courage to do what I do, may make it a little easier for them as they grow and become members of society. And I really reflect back on our culture, a strong culture, a strong people. So the culture functions as their immune system of the social body. So looking at, you know, the last 500 years, you know, looking at specifically residential schools, Indian day schools. One thing that I will, you know, strongly share is that our ceremonies, our connection to each other and creator, these things are real. These things are protective factors. If they weren't, we wouldn't be practicing them. We might not be here as a Blackfoot nation. So I firmly believe, and elders will say, and all those who practice our culture and believe in it, we're going to be here for however long, you know, Mother Earth lets us be here. This is a recent photo of our day treatment program, coming back to our ancient ways and teaching those who are on the path of recovery and wanting support to abstain from using any type of substance. And I'm part of that. I get to be part of that in my work, you know, and so it's not just my personal life, it's coming back to our workplace and being part of immersing ourselves in our culture and our ancient teachings, that we become stronger, we become more aware, we become kinder, we become who we're meant to be. If you take off all the layers of the trauma, you know, we come to be who we're meant to be. This photo I took last week. You know, I have a new partner, and I get to see mornings on the reserve, and isn't this a beautiful photo of where this home is situated, and it is truly my hope still that with each new generation we teach using our Siksigate Sitabi methodology, our ancient ways, right? That we can be that, we can feel it, you know, we can know it, and to ensure that systemic reconciliation is occurring and in my lifetime and continuing on, so that, you know, we talk about fairness and a just society. Well, I want us to freely practice and live Siksigate Sitabi Gibat Dabi Sinno, our way of life. It's a photo of my mom and dad with me, of my dad, me, and my children and my grandchildren. So in my dissertation, and I often talk about it, last week when we had the National Truth and Reconciliation Day, we had Orange Shirt Day. It was, you know, we chose to have a week-long event, not just one day. We also had a MMIWG event last Saturday. So really, really busy with community and educating, creating awareness, you know, being visible, knowing that people have support. We support you. We support those who want to take charge of their healing journey, of what that looks like, where they're going, and knowing that they have support as they walk intently, patiently, courageously on their journey. So we're going to dance the dances, we're going to sing those songs, and we're going to pray those prayers, because we're here. If we haven't been killed off by now, nothing will do that. We've overcome, you know, the doctrine of discovery. We've overcome war. We've overcome disease. We've overcome residential schools and all the effects, and we're still here. And I think we'll become a stronger nation. We'll become a stronger nation than we have ever been before, because of the you know, Western tools, the contemporary tools that many of our people are learning and being so skilled at. So I'm really proud of that. I'm so honored to see it in my lifetime. We talk about ancestral strength and genetic, you know, memory, muscle memory of our ancient ways or our teachings. You know, what happens when the research become the researchers, right? And questions are asked differently, they're answered differently. You know, we share them on differently. We participate, you know, as equals, as nation to nation. You know, isn't that amazing? What happens is liberation, is reconciliation, is continued connection. This is a photo of my littlest grandson. He's 3 years old, and him and I just, oh, we just have this amazing relationship. I so love it. A photo of my grandmother that I had an amazing relationship with. That's what has kept me, you know, going. Like that connection was so amazing, you know. And I'm just sharing a photo of me. I'm choosing to do anything, and I can overcome, and I can accomplish, and I can succeed. So the apology was part, it's like intertwined into my own healing journey, my personal you know, way moving forward. And I'm here to pass that baton onto those around me and with me. There's another photo from last summer, deep in COVID regulations still. You know, I handed in my dissertation. You know, that day I handed it in, it was like, you know, wow, what a relief. I couldn't even, you know, fathom what had occurred, but there was these elderly ladies that were at the Native graduation. You know, only 20 people were allowed, and I had this dress made for this specific occasion. You know, moccasins were made for that specific occasion, and I was blessed by 2 elderly women. I was the only PhD Native student graduating that year, so I was pretty honored, pretty proud. You know, kind of said, you know, again, you know, F you colonizers, you know, look at me, right? Look what I did. And in the final, you know, kind of the last words of the Papal apology, he says our own efforts are not enough to achieve healing and reconciliation. you know, we're all part of it. We're all a part of it. So we can say God, we can say creator, we can say higher power, whatever that is for you, that energy, that also powerful energy that we pray to, that we ask for guidance and clarity. We're all a part of change. And this is an old photo, not an old photo, a photo from the 1800s when we still practice our akkogatsen. Very different feel than how it is today. Ceremonies are the same, songs are the same, prayers are the same, and we're still going to be practicing this for years to come. And this is a photo of my mom and dad, who are survivors, and I just wanted that to be my final, photo showing you that whatever they experienced, they overcame. And this was a photo we used for their 50th wedding anniversary. So I want to thank you for sharing this time with me, and I end my personal reflection there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pat. And I think on behalf of everyone, just like extremely heartfelt. So, beyond raw, I feel like you pulled us in, right? Like we went really, really deep there. And, I cannot imagine what it takes to have your level of forward looking. It's not optimism, so to say, but there's a, it's further than optimism, that really truly forward looking of what are our next steps. Let's take them. Let's do it together. So I thank you for allowing us to be here and to sit with you in this uncomfortable space. And, if there's discomfort, is what you taught me, to sit in it, right? To like actually be here, like to sit in this feeling and then see what comes up out of it. So let us all sit, let us all ruminate. And what we will do is we'll switch over to the Q&A session. And if there's something that's not answered, we will follow up by email. And I'd like to start here with a question from the audience that says, your acceptance and hope is inspiring. However, what actions or next steps from the Vatican are you and Indigenous leaders calling for?
Well, I can't answer that for the leaders, but I will answer it personally and from my workplace. I continue to share what I know with my children, and they have access to all resources that I have access to. They have access to the elders and knowledge keepers and sacred bundle holders on our reserve, and I think for them too, as part of intergenerational healing, that they will be guided. I cannot force anyone to change, to say, well, you better heal. I've learned that over the years, that I'm a helper, and if helping you is just that I sit with you and I just accept you as you are, then that's what I'm gonna do. If you ask for help in other realms, such as where can I go, to talk to somebody, I'm having these feelings or these thoughts, or I'm not understanding why I do this. So I also can guide people and connect people, to elders and mental health addictions workers, and just sitting with them. Leadership wise, our chief and council doesn't always share their goals until it's announced as a communique to all members what they're doing. And in June of this year, they shared that they were in the process, a long process of putting together a team to then do the ground penetrating radar work. And I think I mentioned it in the webinar in July, but there wasn't just one site or two, there's actually 6. So it's a process. So I think we need to be grounded in ceremony. And if we're not, we are going to be angry people. We're going to be so raw and still see that pain and want to lash out. That if we're not grounded in ceremony to help us move in a good way, the energies outward, so the universe can do what it needs to do with it, so that we can be patient and kind and bless our past, bless who we are, accept who we are, but move forward differently, knowing what we know. That's just from where I'm at. I cannot speak for national or other organizations, but if you want to do the research, you can spend a long time on Google, and you will see academic scholarly articles, news articles. You go on the AFN website, the NAHO website, all these national Indigenous organizations. You go to each province, each academic institution, they have their own Indigenous First Nations documents, resources. So you can do that work. I'm not going to do it anymore. I did a PhD. If I do research, it's on my own now. It's for me. But people need to exert the energy so that they know. Just take the time, feel it, read it, reread it if you don't understand it. Reach out to people, connect with ACE. ACE can connect with me, and we can do further, presentations, further working group sessions of what do I do? How do I make sense of it? Help me understand, and then we can move forward with that. But you got to do the work.
Well said, Dr. Fox. And I do agree. It is a collaborative effort more than, it coming from one single person. Absolutely. The next question, what do children think about the apology? And I'm going to assume children being younger generations.
Well, I'll speak for my children, because for most of their life, they grew up off reserve. They grew up knowing mom was going to school. That's what they know, academic life. So they know what I know, but because they're young, eager minds. My kids are adults, by the way. The apology wasn't a big deal, because they had not grown up directly on reserve with the first, the survivors of residential school. And although I went to Indian day school, they had no idea. I had not shared anything. Why would I? I wasn't even ready at the time to acknowledge myself. The bullying, the lateral violence, the non-First Nations teachers could either really love you and value you, or they could be so mean and just discard you. Just living on reserve, it's so different than living off reserve. So they didn't experience that. They grew up in cities, and that was my intention. And maybe hindsight, it would have been okay to share with them some things, but trauma kind of dictates how you do things. So I protected my kids from whatever. But as they became older, I started sharing with them started helping them understand their own behaviors and why I was a single parent for most of their lives, you know, and why I did what I did and why I say what I say. And, you know, I appreciate young minds. So it could probably be a spectrum. Some won't care. Some may run with it and say, this happened. Now what? Now what can I do? What's the next step now that the Pope has apologized? We can't just check it off our list. We have to see the action thereafter. And so let's see what's going to happen.
Thank you, Dr. Fox. And from what we know, and we are just so grateful to have met some of your children and know that you've done as a parent everything that you possibly could. So just please know that. And our last question to wrap up is, what is the doctrine of discovery and how does it relate to the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action?
Well, again, if you are a researcher, right, this is pretty academic, pretty, you know, go into law, you go into Indigenous, you know, policy, you know, you'll find it. And I actually took a couple of history courses while it was in my PhD program, and I wrote a lot on the doctrine of discovery. So what it is it's the Papal bull of the 1400s. So when the church, the Spanish people came this way, the church, they came this way, and the Papal bull, it has so many, you know, items to it. So if a land is unoccupied and they're not Christian, you know, humans per se, it's not developed, the Papal bull says we can claim it, right? And so it has so many things that have been entrenched in the legal system, in law, in Indian policy, Indian laws, especially, you know, on Turtle Island, North America, Canada, the US, that regular people, citizens that don't know this, that don't do the research, they're not exposed to this, why would they, right? Why would they? If in fact we relinquish the doctrine of discovery, Canada won't be Canada. It'll be something different, because it's going to change the way we use the land, who can use it. It's going to change the economy. It's going to change everyone's everyday reality. That would be amazing. So it is a very oppressive element and writing directly from the church. So some leaders, you might read in some articles, wanted the Pope to say that we relinquish, we take back the doctrine of discovery. That would be pretty awesome. So that's what it is. The TRC, how it relates to the TRC is we have so many documents that come out of, you know, investigations and research and writing, that how often are governments, you know, connected, and how often do they say, okay, we're going to do this, and we're going to make it better for Indigenous people. We're going to do this, and we're going to make it better, and we're going to have that just society, that fair society, equitable society, that everyone flourishes from the land and all the resources, right? We're all treated equal. Maybe the Indian Act will be, you know, out the door, because I still fall under the Indian Act, right? That's why I had to go get an education. I, as a First Nations woman, couldn't own or be ownership of land. The Indian Act was so sexist, was racist. It controlled everything about who we are. So if all of these things were dismantled, it would be a different story.
Let's go together then, Dr. Fox. Thank you for that. And I will have to wrap up now and truly thank everyone for their time. But the list of resources will be sent to you by email, a very extensive list of resources, whether you're looking for, some resources for the Papal visit or calls to action, it will be there for you. And finally, your feedback will help us to improve future webinars on truth and reconciliation and our work on calls to action. We also encourage you to subscribe to our newsletter and follow ACE to be notified of future events. And finally, if you'd like to join us on the path, please email cohen@jointhealth.org. And with that, thank you to everyone. Thank you to Dr. Fox. And thank you to our audience for sitting with us in this space.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great rest of your day.